In 2022, I stopped pretending to be a realist and instead remembered who I am, a dreamer. Busy does not equal productive. You can have a full calendar and still get nothing done in a day. Unless you know what few things in life truly matter to you, then everything you're doing, you don't really know if it's bringing you forward or if you're just sort of running in place, right? And that's the difference. A lot of people are just busy bees, just buzzing in place, and they're not actually progressing towards anything meaningful. You can say no without explaining yourself. I say this as a former people pleaser, so I know just how difficult it can be to put yourself and your best interests first. And before I say anything else, don't ever lose that part of you. The part of you that is kind and cares for others, right? The world needs more people who care. The world needs more of you. There's just a fine balance you can strike between being respectful and caring for others while also still meeting your own needs as well. People have different definitions of friendship. As I was often wondering, why are people not reaching out to me as much as I reach out to them? Or why am I always the one setting up calls and all that? And slowly you realize that they just don't see friendship the same way as you do, which is totally okay, right? Everyone is going to have different sort of constraints or different sort of perspectives about what maintaining a friendship, considers. For some, it might be calling every 2 weeks. Others, it might be seeing each other only when you're in the same city or whatever, right? Don't let that deter you from staying true to yourself and your own definition of friendship, right? Invest as much as feels right to you, as long as they are the right person for you. If you don't have the same goals, don't take the same approach. This is a lesson I had to learn the hard way. I feel like I banged my head against the wall way too many times before I finally figured this out. But this applies to so many areas of life, whether it's your health, right? You want to get more in shape. You don't need to crash diet in 6 weeks, eating only apples and gum for food and doing 2 hours of cardio every day. You can take it at a slower, less aggressive pace. If your goal or aspirations in life and for your career isn't to make a ton of money or have a prestigious job, and you care more about having time for your passions and your relationships in life, then don't take that job or career path that does none of that for you. Play the game, but do it your way. There's a lot of games we play in life, whether it's career, dating, so on and so forth. And there's a very standard approach to all of these games, right? But that doesn't mean you have to play it like everybody else. You can play these games, participate, and still stay true to yourself and your character. Because what you'll find is a lot of people, when they're playing these games, they'll try to play it just like everyone else because that's what works or what's normalized. And in the process, they slowly lose sense of themselves and their character. When at the end of the day, the only thing that matters, the only thing that you have to your name in life is your character. Growth isn't measured one way. We're so used to measuring growth based on a number or metric, right? Our GPA in school to our salary in our job. When we focus so much on a number as our standard or benchmark for our progression in life, then it's easy to feel like we're stuck or we're behind. But the thing is, growth shows up in so many little ways that we don't always notice in our day-to-day because they're not black and white. They're often a slow progression over time that you really only start to notice as you take the time to reflect, right? Growth is when you set boundaries and actually stick to them, when you put yourself first, when you would have put yourself second in the past, when you leave an unhealthy situation or environment that you've stayed in for far too long, when you feel more deeply connected with yourself, the relationships you're in. That's growth. And growth in the areas of life that actually matter and stick with you throughout the rest of time. Ask why a lot, over and over and over again, until you are tired of hearing the word. We're so used to taking other people's answers as our own without so much as a second thought. And if you think about it, right, someone's answer is molded by their own unique experiences and values in life. So if we just live according to someone else's answer, then we're living their life. We make decisions and go down paths that may be right for them, but not for us. Slow down. What's the rush? Unless it is a literal life or death situation, which the vast majority of cases never are, a few minutes isn't going to make that much of a difference, right? And I say that to say you can eat your lunch a little slower, sip your coffee, and actually enjoy it. Take a little bit longer on your commute or that walk you take in the middle of the day. I feel like far too often we treat life like this itinerary going from A to B to C because that's what we feel like we should be doing as productive human beings, right? But in the process, we forget that life is meant to be experienced. One thing that could help that I found myself doing quite a bit in 2022 was saying, if this isn't nice, what is? When you have that little moment that just makes you smile and be grateful for life, right? If you're walking down the street and you get that beam of sun that hits perfectly on a winter day, sitting on a bench and you just are fully at ease in the quiet and the stillness. Or even if you're just in your own space and you have a roof over your head and food in your stomach, if that isn't nice, I don't know what is. Plant seeds. Write your thoughts down. I think there's some stat out there which says in any given day, you have like 90,000 thoughts that run through your mind. So if you think about it, trying to pick out any one from that mass is pretty damn hard, right? But the moment that you choose to write your thought down, to focus on that one, you gain clarity. It becomes that much closer to becoming reality, right? Think about all the decisions or changes you've made in your life. They all started out as a thought. That decision to get in shape, that decision to pursue that career path. And the same holds true with everything else in life, right? Because when you have that clarity of thought, you can be more intentional with your decision making. And not to sound cheesy or be that guy, but intentional decision making is the most crucial factor to being able to live a meaningful and fulfilling life, to actually turn your dreams into reality. If you don't build your dream, no one else will. Similarly, if you're not building your own dream, you're building someone else's. Your boss isn't going to, on a Monday morning, tell you, go take this money, quit, and go live out your dreams. Everyone is self-interested, and I say that in the most objective way possible. Given the option, people are going to pick their own dreams 100 times out of 100. And you owe it to yourself to do the same, to show up for yourself. I'm I'm begging you to take some time and just write down your dreams. Because the moment you write it down, it's one step closer to becoming reality. Because if you write it down, then you can ultimately start taking action to building it yourself. No one cares. Everyone is so absorbed in their own lives, their own interests, their own baggage that they could care less what you do as long as it is not physically putting them in danger. They might give you a quick, what is that person doing? Or, judge you for a split second in their mind before they get on with the rest of their day. And I say all that to say, whatever wild, outlandish dreams you may potentially have, and you're afraid of that potential judgment or ridicule you get from others, no one cares. Fear. It's there to protect us, right? To protect us from getting eaten by a lion or hit by a bus if we hear a loud noise coming. Outside of that, all fear really does is hold us back. Because all of the other fears that we have in life, right? The fears of being judged or ridiculed or not being enough weren't instilled by us, right? You didn't grow up thinking, oh, I can't be that star athlete. I can't be an artist. I can't do this or that, right? When you're a kid, the world is at your fingertips. You dream of anything and everything. And it's only when other people, whether it's family, friends, or society, whatever, they start telling you what you can't do, who you can't be. And they interact with you in a way that you develop those fears, those insecurities, those programmings that are just so hard to get rid of. But ultimately, that programming, that software, whatever you want to call it, as difficult as it may be to unwrite and rewrite all of that, it's possible. And if you really want to live the life that you want in the way that you want, then you owe it to yourself to understand your fear so you can rewrite your future. Money doesn't buy you happiness. I know it's cliche, but it's worth repeating every single year because it is so true. And I want to tell you a story here. Alexander the Great. If you haven't heard of him, he is this world-renowned historic conqueror, ruler, whatever. When he died, he was buried in the same grave as his mule driver. Not that status or titles matter at all. They don't. But in the sense that all of the material wealth that he possessed, which who knows how much that was, when he died, when he went to the grave, none of it mattered. And when we spend our lives fixated on chasing things like money, status, prestige, we focus on the things that don't matter in the end. And when we do that, we ignore all the things that we do take with us to the grave, right? Our experiences, our memories, the passions we have, the impact we made on the world. And in order to do that, you have to strive for enough. And to do that, you have to choose to define what enough is, right? And don't take someone else's answer. Define for yourself what enough is, whether it's money or whatever other areas of life that are important to you. Because the moment that you get very clear on that, you are already 90% of the way there to a life well lived, a life with less regret, a life worth remembering. Optimize for energy, not time. This is one of the most important lessons I learned in 2022 that really helped me change my life. Because you might have time, right? After work or after class, you might have a pocket of hours to work with. But what you don't have is energy. Because as sad as it sort of sounds, when we're sitting at a desk or whatever all day, that does drain our energy, and sometimes faster than most, right? So if we really want to, as we talked about earlier, be the most productive, then we have to align when we have the most available energy with doing what really matters to us in life. And that comes down to knowing yourself, right? Knowing when you function best, whether it's at morning or at night, and making sure that you protect those hours and save it only for the things that really matter to you. Additionally, what you may come to realize, especially when you are an adult, is that you have to make that time because no one else will. If that means waking up an hour or two earlier so you can work on that blog, you can plan out that video, or whatever it may be, it is worth it. Because as we've already said, no one is going to build your dreams but you. Live with death. If we can harness and use death the right way, then we can actually bring forth new life, right? If we're aware of the fact that our time on earth isn't guaranteed, then we can live our lives more thoughtfully, more intentionally, in a manner that really resonates with us. If there's something you've always wanted to do for yourself, ask yourself, if I didn't do this in a month, even a shorter time frame, whatever, would I regret this? Because that month, that year, whatever time horizon you choose, isn't guaranteed. So you owe it to yourself to start thinking about and working on that now. And it doesn't have to be anything grandiose or whatever. It can be something as simple as, I want to start forming more meaningful relationships with others. I want to improve my self-esteem and confidence, right? Find something that you truly care about, that if life were to be taken away from you, you wouldn't regret not doing it. Stories are meant to be told, and this goes both ways. If you're spending time with someone you've just met or someone you've known for your entire life, be curious and make the space for them to feel seen, heard, and understood. For to be understood is to not be alone in whatever sort of struggles or experiences one's having in life. And the last thing we want to feel is like we're alone in this world, particularly when we're struggling. And that's where you come into play, right? Your story deserves, no, it needs to be told. Because as unspectacular as you might think your normal life is on paper, which, let me tell you, it's not, there is so much about you that makes you unique, that makes you one of a kind, that you may not realize, right? Because as similar as you might appear to someone else on paper, I guarantee you there are going to be slight variations in your lived experience that will change the story entirely, change how the story is told. And those slight differences in story can make the difference between someone hearing it and just going in one ear, out the other, and being like, oh, that was cool, I guess. And someone having that aha moment, that light bulb that goes off in their head, that inspires them to change, that makes them feel less alone in this world. So, if not for yourself, then tell your story for someone else. Be a little bolder, be a little bit more courageous for that younger version of yourself who needed to hear your story. The final lesson, been saving to the very end, it's have faith. Have faith in yourself, have faith in this crazy experience and uncertainty that life can be at times, that everything will work out, which I know is easier said than done, but just take a moment and think about it, right? Where and who you are in life right now, whatever sort of difficulties or circumstances you've faced in life to this point, you've found a way to make it work time and time again. And while the situation, the circumstances may change, the one thing that doesn't is you. So, whatever happens, knowing that you've got yourself to rely on, you'll make it work, just as you've done before. There's this phrase that goes,
If you can't, you must, and if you must, you can.
have a little bit of faith, because you can.